Hello, Reliability Gang. Hope all is well. Welcome back to another episode of the Reliability Gang podcast. I have a very, very special guest. I've been following Joe for a long time on LinkedIn. I love some of the stuff that you've done. He's a pioneer within the industry, and we've really had a great time, really, haven't we? Good discussion. So
awesome.
I'd like to introduce Joseph Anderson from Reliability X. We had to do it. We had to jump on this podcast because we've been a part of a couple of the panels, haven't we? And some of Joe's answers just completely got me absolutely hyped up and gassed with some of the things he's saying. Because in reliability in general, Joe, there's a lot of fluff in there, mate.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and I think some of the stuff that even some of the answers, I think people have kind of been like, whoa, like mic drop moments and sometimes. And I think one of the jobs of us in the Reliability Gang is also to call people out sometimes a little bit, do you know what I mean? And make sure that we're actually spreading the right message, man.
Right.
Like when it comes to reliability, Joe, explain your story a little bit and like highlight your journey as well. And I quite like that. Maybe explain to the viewers a little bit about your journey and kind of where you're at. And we're going to get into the depths of the real reliability.
Yeah. So, out of high school, I started in maintenance. I was a lube tech. I was the guy putting defects on everything. I didn't know anything.
He was the defect initiator, or not eliminator.
Right. You never hand a new guy a grease gun, right? And with no training or anything. So, blowing every seal and doing it, it was nuts. Like looking back on it now, I would have fired myself, right? But to come from that, I kind of worked up into maintenance management, but I still didn't understand maintenance philosophy.
Yeah.
What proactivity is and how to go about being proactive. It wasn't till about 2011, 2012 where I had a mentor kind of pull me aside and slap some common sense. But from that point forward, we kind of got into it. He knew how to manipulate my ego and get through it.
And I think that's the thing. And I think we're going through the same battle right now, to be honest, Joe, sometimes. And what quite endearing about your story is that you mentioned that you did need an ego change. You did need to be able to understand that things need to be done better. Mm-hmm. And I loved your analogy in the panel about saying that, you want to be around for your family. You don't want to be on the site for 12 hours because you're having failures and breakdowns and that stressful environment. And that was like a very good why we need to be better in what we're doing for our own sanity.
Well, the thing that we never talk about is, at least in the States, divorce rate in the maintenance department.
Really high.
It's like 85%.
Jesus Christ.
Right. And so these guys are sacrificing themselves for the company for literally no reason at all, because we should be doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And so that it kind of hit me then after we had that conversation. I kind of went back and did a poll to understand what my guys were going through and try to help them understand that a better quality of life is what it's all about.
Yeah.
So you can create a good quality of life when things don't break, and you can be highly profitable. You can do both. So from that point forward, I kind of invested in myself into understanding what it takes to turn a plant around. And I kind of brought in some previous restaurant experience because I owned a restaurant for a little while.
Oh, right. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. What did you bring from that kind of environment?
In its simplest terms, a restaurant is small scale manufacturing.
It kind of is.
You're taking raw materials, turning it into finished goods, right?
There's quality,
right?
There's performance,
all of it.
And the availability, I suppose, as well, and how much food is actually being produced.
Well, sure. And if I stick to my specs, my food cost goes down. Right. The more that I sell or the higher ticket price that I get, the cost goes down. So all that relates into large scale manufacturing.
Yeah. I love that.
It's just a little more complex than a restaurant. But, and trying to keep things simple is always something that I've tried to do. Because, if the value is in simplicity.
I agree so much. And I think in this world that we've got now, like, I've done ARP and there's a lot of tools in there. And we talked about like mean time to failure and mean time before failure and all these acronyms and Weibull analysis and all this data statistic stuff, which I can see as being of value if we've got enough information. But the reality is we're not even really in a position right now for 80% of the clients that even apply some of these techniques because they don't add no value because they haven't got the data there in the first place. You know what I mean? So I think in terms of the reliability conversation, we've got to have a chat about the things that we need to do. And also the roadmap. where are you actually at? And are you willing as a business to be able to actually invest and resource this properly? Because if we don't do that, I mean, in my experience, we've had a lot of kickback from that. If we started, because we haven't probably, again, another mistake from our end of kind of reflection, because we haven't really stated that key business drivers, we're not measuring the right things. You never know you're actually going to make a difference. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's, if you're measuring the right things, you see the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
But one of the things at first, as you progress from reactivity to a more proactive approach, you can come to smiles. You go out and you see if we're truly having an effect, people are happy.
Happier, yeah.
And they don't mind coming into work now. They get excited about things and they want to see it change. Every one of us wants to see the change. It's just a lot of us don't know how to get
and how to get there, and also how to collaborate to get there, because it's a team effort, isn't it? Like, it's one thing I've kind of even in the panel kind of spoke about getting the whole organization involved. And a lot of the time we're just having these conversations with just maintenance, and we're having a conversation with one side. And this is really difficult when we do that, because when production are also so viable within the conversation about how they operate the machinery, and sometimes they don't see that some of their actions actually are causing a high majority of the problems. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's where a majority of the breakdowns come from.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. If you're, for example, you take a simple, like a box machine, right? You're putting blanks in. Every time that thing jams, you unjam it, you restart the machine, you take a minute of downtime, right? But what we don't see is the secondary effects to the machine, right? We're torquing it, we're
the damage it causes.
We're tweaking it, right. And so it causes defects to initiate, which ultimately will lead to a breakdown.
Maintenance get involved.
Right.
Of course, yeah.
And so a lot of times, you're center lining and understanding how to properly run equipment, you avoid the breakdowns altogether. And then you hope that your maintenance department has a robust strategy to be able to catch it soon enough.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's also even like the point of that failure happening. How many people don't even do the RCAs? So nothing ever really actually gets resolved as well.
An RCA is a blame tool anymore. Who's the person we're looking to blame for this?
He's a kind of scapegoat.
Right now. And you're staying up at the people level of the cause and not getting into the latent systemic issues. We don't ever dig far enough.
Don't ask enough questions, do we? I think the assumption is killing the RCA process.
Well, it's because we don't understand. Like, for example, a 5Y isn't a tool to use regularly.
Yeah.
It's a troubleshooting tool for operators for simplicity to help them understand why the machine stopped, right? You get into different tools, like cause mapping, where you can list out all the causes and go after it. That's why I hate root cause analysis. It's root causes analysis, right? There's more than one cause to everything.
Yeah, you're right. And that's the thing, that's what can be misleading sometimes with people looking just for one singular thing.
Yeah.
Obviously want to try to go as far back to the first originality point of it.
Yeah.
But it's also, you don't want, what you don't want to do is also forget the things that also come up after that as well. Right. If that makes sense. You feel like we miss that a lot, in industry.
Well, systemic issues are things that are caused by culture.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's not just, okay, yes, this person needs trained, and yes, we need, right. There's all these things that we've got to do to eliminate the cause. But when you get into systemic issues, it's all about the culture.
Yeah. How did you find when you was running your plants? We speak about the relationship between production and engineering, and like I had an example there where we're at a particular plant in the minute, and they're kind of both kind of almost blaming each other for everything. We're like the mediators in between and trying to get into the root cause of the problems. How did you, when you was kind of in your role, how did you marry that together? And did you have the same kind of like problems with the communication side? Was there a little bit of blame culture on both sides, or was it different for you?
Well, every time you walk into a plant, that blame culture exists.
Yeah.
So I already knew that going in anywhere I went.
Yeah.
And you have to be tough. And that's the hard part for people. You have to have, critical conversations and accountability. But what I did is I put the onus back on my maintenance techs.
Yeah.
They come into the shop complaining that the operator doesn't know how to run the machine. Well, did you train them? Don't come to me complaining.
Yeah, if you
haven't done your job, ensuring that they know how to run it. And they say, well, it's not my job. Saying, yeah, it's not. But you can complain or we can do something about it.
Yeah.
We have to be the ones to grab the bull by the horns and lead the charge.
Yeah.
Who else is going to do it? No one's coming to save you, right? So we have to make a decision. Are we going to be the ones that push us forward? Or are we just going to complain about it?
And not even that. Our life is not going to get any easier by complaining. No. There's no action. There's no output for that, is there? There's no.
And then going out and doing a little bit of hand holding and showing them how to go about doing it as well. Because a lot of people have that fear of the unknown.
Yeah,
I've never done it before. I don't know how to do it. It's awesome, man. Come on,
well, let's show you.
Let me go.
Yeah. Definitely.
Right? And you just start educating them. What you start finding is as your maintenance technicians work with operators, your technicians learn more than the operator does.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
because the operator's on this thing 24/7. They understand the ins and outs.
Pretty much, even they can start to pick out certain noise or certain things that are a little bit abnormal with these machines. Because you are right, the engineering team are not on these machines all day. The operators are by the machine, and there's a lot they can add to this as well. Did you kind of within your plants get your operators to do kind of any maintenance on the tasks?
Yeah, CIL is well, the L piece is debatable. Depends on the plant.
What you want to do,
but at least clean and inspect.
Yeah, and I suppose that is operator driven maintenance in the sense just cleaning and making sure things are nice and tidy, and giving them the culture of that. I mean, again, we had the same issue with the one that I was talking about the other day with the cleaning of the machine and them not doing it and getting to the root cause. But I mean, there was, again, we talk about root cause analysis, there was a few issues there. It wasn't just the fact that they weren't talking the heads on correctly at a certain rate. The fact is that their cleanliness is a problem.
Yeah,
as well.
And communication.
Yeah.
Instead of blaming each other,
let's work together.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's solve the problem.
3 problems
right.
there.
3 causes that need to be addressed.
And that's the thing as well, what you said, if you just, did the talking up, okay, maybe that might stop these things, but it's still going to be other things in the plant that are going to end up happening because of the communication and the poor cleanliness of the plant as well.
The thing is to get people to understand the principle and how it applies, because once you understand the principle of it, it applies to everything.
Yeah, it does.
And so it's not just this one thing that we tighten the head. It's the reason why.
Why are we doing this? Where's the culture within that? And how do we start to drive that forward?
How do you like a difficult life?
I know, yeah.
Like, you like this difficult life? It could be a lot easier. I would rather see an operator out reading a book that I gave them because they don't want to touch a machine and the thing's running.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I'm helping them grow at the same time, either personally or in business.
Yeah.
By reading a book. And what we do is we have this tendency to say, oh, he's reading a book, he needs to grab a broom and start sweeping.
That mentality is so bad.
I know, man.
Yeah. Why are we like that as humans?
If we truly care about our people and we want to see them grow, we have to invest in them, and there's a million ways we can do that.
Yeah, into people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about people.
It is. And I think, have we lost the way that we communicate? Like, you look at these plants, a lot of people that we see, I don't think they're that happy in regards to what they're. It's very frustrated.
Well, it's a toxic culture, because if they see leadership doesn't care, why should we?
Yeah.
They did for a while, and then they shut down and quit telling you about problems. And then you think that employee is a bad actor. It's like, no, for 20 years, they told you this issue was going on and you did nothing about it.
Now they're conditioned in a way where
they're just like, they're not going to say anything, or they're frustrated and they're acting out because they're frustrated. Well, what's the root cause of that?
Yeah.
Right. We're not sitting down and, maybe they got in a fight with their wife this morning before they left the house.
Crap day. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Right. It's like, not everybody.
We them, don't we? We work bad days, and
every one of us have issues.
I'm not being funny. Like, one day I may be happy as hell, but the next day you're right. Something may have happened, might have an argument or whatever, and I ain't going to be me,
right?
In the happy stage. And I think we often really forget about that as well with like, even the people that we're trying to manage or trying to, kind of coach and mentor. And I think empathy, like you said the other day, empathy is so key. And we need to start really treating people better.
Of course. There's a great book. It's called Leadership and Self-Deception.
Who's the author?
It's the Arbinger Institute. Leadership and Self-Deception. That book offended me.
Was it one of them books you read? You're like, oh my God, it's almost uncomfortable to read.
Yeah, it was one of these books where it showed myself in a mirror, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I know.
And I quit reading it. I'm like, nope. You know, like,
I'm not reading.
It's
calling me out.
After about a week, I was like, all right, come on,
you got to read this joke.
Like the problem is they're right, and I didn't like it. Right?
Yeah.
But it's about how we all have this issue of lacking empathy.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're at the grocery store, at the gas station. How many times do you just stop and talk to somebody?
Yeah, and not even that. You're in a queue.
Yeah.
And you've got someone in front of you, maybe been a bit slow, and your default is like, oh, come on, hurry up, man.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And you're right. It's like we have this weird kind of, it's like the subconscious part of our brain is very,
We have to manage the narcissist.
we have to, because we all have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the world revolves around us.
Yeah. And the tolerability of what we're doing sometimes is, you're right. We have to almost consciously remind ourselves that we are people, and maybe when we go into work and go into that environment, maybe we're kind of working off these automatic programs where that narcissism almost comes through a little bit, because you're right, the world revolves around you. Am I meeting my KPIs? Is the boss going to come and tell me off because he's not doing what he's doing? Was the customer going to be annoyed at me because my employee maybe not doing what he should be doing? Rather than thinking about, well, have I trained him? Is he aware of what he's doing and all the rest of it?
What issues are they going through? Like I said, 85% divorce rate. Are they fighting every night they get home?
Yeah, yeah.
Are they kids acting out or all this stuff?
Have they got a problem with their kids potentially? You know, are they be in trouble? You know, are they?
You know, some kid is addicted to drugs and they're dealing with that issue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you don't know your people well enough to know what's going on in their lives, then you're not doing your job. You failed them as a leader.
So that's the leadership thing in it. It's almost being really, and I think you are right with that, Joe, because I think some of the engineering managers that we've met many, you know, we deal with a lot now. We've got a lot of guys that going out to site and doing a lot of CM services and reliability stuff. But you are right. You can tell the ones that are really in tune with their people. You can tell by the way that their people react to them, and the energy. And it's not even what is said; it's how the relationship is and how open things are.
It's respect.
It is, yeah.
Right. So, like, giving people, like, maybe this person for 20 years has come into work on time, always shows up, but now all of a sudden he's going through this stint where he's showing up late all the time. There's a problem. Instead, what we do is, that's a point, write him up.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hang on. Now, if he's doing it as blatant disobedience,
we have
accountability, right?
Yeah.
But if it's because, well, my wife left me, now I got to run the kids to school and I got to do we need to figure it out. What can I do to help? Right? What can I do to help? Because I need you here. I want you here. You're important to the team. What can I do to help?
How can we make this work?
But people won't do that. Instead, it's all about me. Well, he's not performing the way I want him to. It's like, but you've never even communicated your expectations, let alone have a plan.
Do you think we give up on people too quickly?
Of course. Because it's easier to blame them than to focus on us.
It's easier to maybe just for the problem to be eliminated opposed to
but who caused the problem?
Yeah, you're right.
Most of the time, it's the leader.
It's the leader, yeah.
And then we blame them and say, oh, it's easy. We just get rid of them. Then the next guy comes in, same thing happens.
But I suppose that's the self-reflection bit.
It is.
Until you really realize that it's you're kind of in this perpetual loop of insanity, aren't you? Because you're gonna be causing the problem, and it's a bit like maintenance. It's even a machine. You're causing the issues and problems. You're not eliminating the defects. They reoccur again. You change it or change a person, and then it happens again. You're not getting to the root cause of it and addressing it because it's you being it's like that whole self-realization that you've got to put yourself through the self-awareness a little bit as well.
Right.
You're obviously on the other side now because you do consultancy. So you obviously go to clients and talk to people and stuff. You going through that journey your kind of self for where you've been. How do you get other people to see it? Is it easy enough to do? Is it hard in some circumstances in terms of what you've got?
Well, most of the time it's easy because it comes through education and action, right? So if I tell you, hey, you know, get an ultrasound gun where you can do, you know, mechanical inspection, right? And we go out and we check bearings and they find one, right? They're seeing at lifetime that this technology
is working, right? And it adds value to them.
It's like, think about this, like, let's take a simple conveyor and let's just say this conveyor is a modular, you know, interlocks or whatever conveyor, 4 bearings, a motor and a gearbox, couple shafts, right? Simple. I always tell them, look, if I understand the condition of my bearing and the condition of my gearbox and the condition of my motor, I can use structure-borne ultrasound and oil analysis. Just that's it. What else is there left to check? You know, oh, well, maybe there's broken modules. Awesome. I can have an operator. They're out there every day. If they see something broken, put in a work request.
It's effective.
Right. What else? You know, once a year, maybe you break apart the belt and check the sprocket.
Yeah. As a PM. Which
means I don't need any PMs outside of that annual because everything's done on PD.
Yeah.
Right. Getting them to understand maintenance strategy. And
it's like getting them in the position to like say, here's the value.
Yeah.
here's how you get the value out of it. Do you know what I mean? Opposed to rather kind of selling at them.
Yeah.
Because I think, mate, so many people within our industry as well, but we see it is the way they sell is through technical. This sensor can do this. No one cares about that.
Yeah.
Obviously it's important to be able to identify the failure modes that we're trying to see, but it's where's the value here for me? Well, where does it actually?
The problem with selling technology for a lot of people is that a lot of organizations thinks that the technology replaces the skill set, not understanding that you have to train them to give them the skills to be able to utilize the technology.
Yeah.
And so there's that thinking that, well, I bought that, why aren't we using it? It's like that doesn't replace the skills that you need in order to utilize it.
Yeah, and it's the same with even online sensors, because someone still needs to interpret that to add the action to it. You know what I mean? And that's another misconception as well about kind of replacing this whole element of people and the skill set. You still need someone to interpret the information and not even interpret, make a decision. That's the hard thing. Because we might be able to tell a plant that, okay, you've got a defect here, whatever. They may have a planned shutdown in 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
The defect's fairly bad. And they're now trying to discover the risk. Do we wait or do we intervene? And that's a hard decision to make sometimes with limited data. Do you know what I mean? So the data there is evident what we're seeing. We don't really know when it's going to fail. It could be tomorrow. It could be 4 weeks. It could be 6 months. We know unpredictability is there with bearing defects depending on what we've got. Then now he has to make a decision. And I remember speaking to one engineer manager. He really hit the nail on the head. And he kind of said, well, information's brilliant, but you are still going to give me the same report as someone else as if they know what they're doing with the VA. The decision's still on me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's guiding people to make the right decisions and make the right calls when their job's on the line with some of this stuff. Some of the implications of him potentially shutting that machine down early is going to cost the business a lot of money.
Sure.
But then if he does wait to the shutdown period and it does fail in between, well, whose head's on the chopping block if their information's being passed over as well?
Well, that's communication, though, really.
Yeah.
And you, as a leadership team, when the engineering manager communicates that we have this bearing defect, he should be sharing it with the leadership team.
And they should be making the decision together.
Right.
Rather than...
Because then who do you blame when everybody said yes or everybody said no?
Collective agreement.
Yeah. So,
but then also, I suppose that promotes as well the fear of making the wrong decision as well. And it eliminates that because you're making the collective one. But not only that, you'll put everyone's brains together as well about it. Do you know what I mean? And I think the thing is, in our industry, we don't see that a lot. We see a lot of, it's him, it's all on him. And if he makes a mistake, he's the one who's going to suffer. And that's just it's not a healthy way of.
No.
I mean, think of the pressure of that guy.
Yeah. But that's why it's your job to pull them in.
Yeah.
Instead of, you weighing all the risk on yourself, you pull in the leadership team. You say, look, this is what we're facing. Here are my thoughts.
Here's all the facts. Here's what we've got.
Yeah.
What we're going to do.
Here's my opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
And they say, well, we need to make it last another 4 months. Okay, so as long as we're clear, right, I'm all for trying to get it, and I'll do everything in my power to try to get it to last another 4 months. But if it does fail, understand the consequences. Yeah, we got it. Okay, great.
Yeah, and then they can put a portable online system on it to test it every day just to double check and maybe...
Or be the guy that shoots it with a tube of grease.
Should whack a whole tube in there, about that shit. That'll be all right.
Yeah. The more the merrier.
I love that. I love that as well. The blatant bearing defect. Yeah, we'll put grease in it.
Yeah.
That'll reverse the defects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It will take the defect out of the bearing and everything will be okay. It's like, guys, ain't gonna work. There's 100% a defect there as well.
But when you pull the whole team in, now blame is distributed across everybody, therefore it goes away.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
If you keep it on yourself to make that decision and the mistake does happen, which they will.
And then they will put the blame on you. But I suppose...
Because you didn't communicate.
It's your communication skills that allow you to be able to not pass the blame, but collectively discuss a problem that needs to be, solved together. You know what I mean? Again, though, it all boils down to communication again, doesn't it?
Yeah, the leadership issue.
It is. And I think companies, we look at maintenance, we look at all the tools and the stuff. But for me, it's quite evident that we got to be good at communicating first. We got to be good with people first. What can we do to really train our guys? I mean, obviously, there's things you can send your guys on courses and stuff, but I do feel like some of them courses are a little bit generic. I think we need the empathy stuff. But how do we start to inspire our workforce initially to get that bit right? the communication, the empathy, and all of that. Because
you got to lead
treat
yourself
that,
first,
isn't it?
right? Your people are only as good as you are.
Yeah.
So first it's fixing you, and
Fix
then
first and fix, and then people will follow.
but the question is are you willing to put in the work?
Yeah. Are you willing to because it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle first.
And you got to get out of
beating your own demons and then your own insecurities.
I know it sucks. Trust me.
It's hard. But
But
does that make you a better person, Joe? In life in general?
always.
Because I mean, if you do change the way that you operate with your team, that's going to rub off on your family. That's going to rub off on the people around you. It's going to rub off on your friends. You know.
Oh, I know you become a good human being.
Yeah.
I think we need more of those. Right?
Oh, mate, we do. Like this is getting deep. This podcast is getting really philosophical. Like, oh my god, we're going into deep waters now.
It's a large gap in the industry.
Yeah, but I love this conversation because it's so. This is what I need. I need to have these conversations with people that actually really understand. It's not just about reliability. It's about people. It's about how do we communicate. It's about empathy. And I don't think I've had one conversation with anyone, even on this podcast, about them elements. We've always talked about the tangible things. We've always talked about what we need to do at work and how we need to, manage the maintenance and what CMMSs we need to use and all the rest of it. We've not really talked about the other bit, which is so integral to all the rest.
If you get the morale high because people know you care, a lot of your issues go away.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. Like for example, if you know how much I care about you because I come out, I shake your hand, ask you if you have any issues, how's the family doing, whatever, every day I'm making my rounds.
Yeah.
All right. You are going to start paying attention. What happens when nobody cares? It's like, I don't care if it jam, I'll jam it and do it again. And like what it does is it shifts people's awareness into understanding that I don't want that thing to fail. Right. So I got to make sure all my center lanes are met, the right boxes are in and everything. So a lot of the mistakes that we just kind of let go because we don't care, those things start going away.
Yeah, I see.
Right. And it's nothing we did. We didn't have a more robust maintenance strategy. We didn't have a really great operator strategy. All we did was show that we cared about people. And that's why I always say, like, that morale covers a multitude of sin.
Yeah, it's like if you can get that bit right, it's like the cheat code to a degree that a lot of people don't realize. Yeah. They're trying to implement all these things and implement all these kind of changes without having the morale bit right and the empathy bit. Because we talk about changing culture, but a lot of the time we only talk about that as a means to get to the outcome without actually caring about the people in the first.
It's been 6 months talking about change management. And that same time, I'm already turning your plant around.
Yeah.
You can sit and talk about it all you want.
We got to create this framework and this process and completely gloss over the fact that you need to be nice to people.
Well, it's the great thing about consultants. We like to take things, package them, and sell them when a lot of times they're not even necessary.
Yeah.
How about you go out and do something, solve one problem, make it go away, and you just won that person for life. Yeah, you want to change culture? That's how you change culture. You do something.
Now he's always going to be able to remember that because that's something
that guy listens.
Yeah. 100%.
That's all they're thinking. That guy listens. So if I bring him another problem,
he go and listen to me. Yeah, 100%.
Which means that they see you as caring.
Yeah.
Which is
such
the empathy piece.
So
it's simple. Again, it's so simple that we can't comprehend its simplicity, so we have to make it complicated. you know?
Why do we do that as human beings, man? It's not just that, is it? It's all things in life that we try to overcomplicate.
Everything.
It's like because it's almost too good to be true. We have to be able to justify something else and then try to.
And a lot of times it's just because we can, because we're smart or whatever. Like I'll give you an example. I was
too logical at times though, and less emotional.
Like I'll give you an example. In a bakery that I worked in, the maintenance manager before me, it was just we did muffins, like muffin tins, it's batter, frozen batter, and instead of putting in a conveyor, just a little 90 conveyor. Because he put in all these air cylinders and switches and the little compact logics, all this PLC work and enough to
get stuff
to come in, kick it out, move it in, kick it out, all this stuff when all he needed was a 90. It's like, why would you do that? And now you have 50 single points of failure when a conveyor is one of the most reliable.
Because they have low points of failure. Yeah.
Because I can do it. So I over-engineered this thing because I can.
But how many things do we see at design stages like that, Joe? Because we see it all the time. Because when we're looking at kind of like looking at the problems of things, it's like, why have they designed it in a way that is so overcomplicated? And you're right, you've got 3 or 4 processes in there that don't actually need to be in there. Now you've got to maintain 3 extra things. Now you've got 3 extra things that could fail. And when we're looking at these things at design stage, like obviously a lot of the things that we potentially buy in the factory is not our decision. Sometimes, we come into a place and something's been poorly designed straight away.
Yeah, it happens.
Do we have to start looking at design on everything initially to try to eliminate the fact that we have got more points of failure to try to make it more simple? How do we approach that when you've got a lot of assets or a lot of things that have been designed poorly?
We'll get maintenance involved in the design process.
Yeah.
Bring in operators. A lot of times engineering designs in the silo.
There is, yeah. I speak that so. I mean, how many times that we even had a case where we did some acceptance testing for a big pharmaceutical company in the UK. And it's so crazy, this story, right? Because we did a lot of acceptance testing before they even taken, delivery of the goods. Mm-hmm. But we identified so many design flaws with the company, and they just ignored it. Mm-hmm. They ignored it, right? And we was like, right, okay, they failed the acceptance testing, but they've not even understood the resonance curves of these fans. You are going to have huge problems with this, because when they got them sent back, they were stiffening the structures and doing all sorts without even testing them to understand that changing the natural frequencies of these things was completely blind. Mm. So they do that without doing the proper tests.
Right.
And we said to even the guys that manufactured the fans, so basically this company is an AHU company. So they'll take a fan, pop it in, they'll take this, pop it in, and they'll build it all and they'll use their suppliers around it. Obviously, the AHU company is an approved supplier for the pharmaceutical company, but the pharmaceutical company is unaware that there's other manufacturers involved in this design process, not just one person.
Sure.
But it's still the AHU companies to understand who they're using as vendors and making sure that they're doing the right kind of things to be able to implement the right tests. But what's really ironic about this story is that when this went to tender, right, the pharmaceutical company had 2 options. And they went with the cheaper option, right? With this other guy, the more expensive option, right? They did all these tests. They did finite element analysis. They did all the resonance curves for these things. So if they had been made, they would have obviously been considered design stage. But this was so bad. Every single time it went back, they didn't understand how to correct it. And it went back and forth, fail. You can imagine the logistics cost of sending these things back to the manufacturer.
Well, that's when you don't understand life cycle costing. That's what gets you into that.
But that wasn't what really hurt. It was the time,
right?
Because they went 6, 7, 8, 9, nearly a year over the project, and that cost the company, pharmaceutical company, millions of pounds.
But when you choose the cheap route, you suffer the consequence.
I know, and this was such a prevalent example that I use nowadays, where they didn't have a criteria to what quality was required to be able to perform the function of what they needed, and they went with a cheaper option because that was the procurement KPI opposed to the reliable option.
Yeah.
And it
cost them a year of production.
It cost them a lot more. It cost them a huge amount more. And it was quite funny. They all got political and there was like, oh, it's your farm pointing the finger. And don't get me wrong, there was definitely some elements of fault on all parts there. But the reality is it was the mindset in terms of buy cheap, get cheap. I mean, I'm not saying that's always the case, but they still didn't really hold accountable on what terms they wanted to make sure these things could provide. And as well, you might have a project deadline and they might be able to say, yeah, we can deliver. But what I think the company needs to also ask the question is, okay, well, what parts are required to be able to ensure the reliability of what we need? And they didn't ask them questions.
Yeah.
And then the design stage was an absolute crap show. It was just, we was in the middle of this absolute storm. And we was just like, oh my God, it got quite bad. But I mean, again, don't shoot the messenger, right? We was kind of in between, and we did obviously get quite a lot of money for the acceptance test and all the rest of it. But it was just also such a great example at design stage. Why it's so important to be able to not go cheap on what you really need to be able to perform, but also set the standards of what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where requirement documentation, stuff like that, specifications,
Yeah.
you take the time to do that up front.
Yeah. It can save you so much time later on, can't you?
That's
So,
the whole design for reliability phase that,
yeah.
doesn't exist in a lot of space.
What do we need to do to start ensuring that it's done? Because Joe, I see it everywhere. Like even now, new equipment's being bought, and I'm like, it's not being designed really for the purpose of what it is, or there's been things missed. How do we make sure that industry wide they know that these things are more important than just such an important part of the process, the reliability?
It's like anything else is education. Like you got to educate people, bring awareness, those types of things. What is the design for reliability process? How does it work? Do you have your stage gates in place to keep you from making a lot of those mistakes? That type of stuff. And a lot of times it's cheapest, lowest cost producer mentality, but what they don't realize is 10 years later it costs them 10 to 40 times more.
It does, and it's such a huge, and that's the thing when you're looking at short-term KPIs with cost, how does that affect long-term KPIs with reliability? And again, this is another thing that we talked about in this discussion, these panels. We got asked the same question, didn't we? What metric do we need to use to be able to ensure that we're getting the best out of the plant? And every single time it was OEE. But I don't know. I mean, for me, it's quite evident that is. But when we go to different sites, we ask them, how are you measuring the effectiveness of all your processes? Not many people are doing it.
Well, they don't even know what processes they need to be effective.
Yeah.
So in maintenance, the way that I break it down is you have to understand an organization, systems, and processes. Right. And a lot of people don't understand, but an organization basically is a collection of plants.
Yeah.
Right. So they have 10 facilities or whatever. Right. That's an organization, the collection of those plants. Within every plant, there's a number of systems that make up the plant. You have the maintenance system, the operation system, the engineering system, the safety system, the quality system. What the system is all of the processes that allow you to function, right? So, for example, in maintenance, I teach there's 15 foundational processes that you have to have. For example, planning and scheduling.
Yeah.
Planning and scheduling is a process, right? A process does not complete the work. It's a part of the work. The system in and of itself completes the work, right? So planning and scheduling, if I plan and schedule work, that doesn't get the work done, right? So you have a work management piece.
Yeah, you need someone to do that way. Yeah.
CMMS piece, right? There's all of these processes that we have to have in place, and having the right processes, that's your effectiveness piece. You're doing the right things.
Yeah.
Then you can focus on making those processes more efficient.
Yeah.
Until you have the right things in place, why would you focus on efficiency?
And that's why I think a lot of people are measuring the wrong things, because they haven't got the processes that are actually, and that's the thing about a false KPI. It's a bit like work orders. And work order completion. If all the work orders are crap and you're doing 100% of crap, you're doing 100%
PM
of
completion,
crap.
Same thing. PM completion is right.
The PM itself.
I'm 100% ineffective in my PMs. Like what? How does that even make sense?
It makes no sense. And we go to sites, it's like, oh, we're behind on our PMs. Yeah. And I'm like, well, if you did 100%, you would be still just 100% more reactive.
They're so ineffective.
They're so ineffective. Yeah. So having no, it's crazy.
Yeah. But that's what we're taught. And you just kind of regurgitate what we're taught, or somebody hears something and decides that's the direction we're going to go without understanding it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we see it quite a lot. And it can get frustrating at times, but then I suppose sometimes they need to see it for themselves. I mean, you can tell someone, to the cows come home, that the PMs are not effective until they actually start to realize it themselves.
Well, telling them and showing them are two different things.
Yeah, okay, I see.
Telling them just, you're wrong. Yeah. That's all they're seeing. And now you're going to face ego.
Yeah.
Say, let me show you why this is the case.
Yeah.
It's a different way of approaching it, right? If I'm just always like, why are you doing that, and that, right? Oh, you're attacking me. Yeah. So now I'm like, I don't care what you say.
Yeah, it's kind
you and I, we're going to see who wins this argument, right? It's not even about what the point of the argument is, right? It's like arguing with your wife. You're in it Are you in it to win the argument, or are you in it to? Is this going to build the relationship, or is it going to hurt the relationship?
It's so true, mate. It's
Right.
so true. Yeah.
And so, taking time to show them why, so that they see it for themselves, you don't have to argue it. And once they see it,
And that's so true, isn't it? Because I love the way that you always like take the conversation back to like your wife or your mate or your friend. It's true because, you know, if you relate it to that, it's like, oh yeah, he's going to be annoyed about that. That's probably not the right way to communicate with this guy. What makes that different to communicating to engineer managers? It's the same thing. You
look,
know?
if my wife walked up to me and goes, "You're obese. You really need to get to working on it, fatty." Right? How do you think I'm going to respond to that? You know what I mean?
You give it what?
I'm like, what? Give me a sandwich. Like I'm eating now. Like I'm going to eat more. Right?
You made me feel sad. There's no I need to eat.
It's not motivating me to go to the gym and right. But if she approached it and said, you know, I love you. I want you to be here for a long time, and let me show you.
Let's go for walk together. Let's do. Let's do
How
that
about
together.
a steak instead of the bowl of cereal?
Make you something a little bit. You know, it's still nice, but it's still. I suppose that's the way of caring.
Well, you're building them up.
Yeah, I see.
And in doing so, you're helping them help themselves.
We've got to really have that. We've got to really understand from our perspective of, especially if you're consulting, you got to be really intricate with it. Because I think if you can have the empathy and really think about that and be creative with the way that you explain things. Because I think identification is one thing. You need to know where the problems are, but addressing that is another completely different matter. And I think you need to be able to be empathetic to what you do, but also creative. And just like that example there, how can I, rather than telling him, how can I show him? So when I do show him, he sees it, but I'm not almost stepping over the line as well and almost not blaming, but kind of pointing the finger.
Well, like PM completion, right? Let's say they're always 100%.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go in and say, why are you measuring that? That's wrong. I'm going to say, let me show you something, right? Let's say they do the PMs over the weekend, right? And then their Monday morning startup is trash.
Trash, yeah.
Because every time they touch a piece of equipment, they don't put the risk of putting more defects in than getting them out is there, right? 100%. It causes other issues. So let's just track what your startups are versus your PM completion. And they start to see, well, there's 4 hours of downtime every Monday morning after we do PM.
Yeah, you're correlating that.
And they're going, oh. So you can be 100% complete. That doesn't mean that they're working. Yeah, right? It's still causing,
but it's still
showing them. Right? You're not going, why are you doing?
Yeah, you're doing you're showing them. But also, what I like about that, you're trying to get the facts that support your argument. Not argument, but support your theory, you know. And when you do that, it has this double amount of effects. And I think a lot of the time, even us at Main say we're guilty for it as well, because we're so passionate about this.
And we all do.
We just want to quick win, like, but I want to make it better. You know what I mean? So then you go in there completely unaware of how you're talking to this guy. And he's like, well, no, like, and it can be so frustrating as well. So I totally get it. It's, but Joe, honestly, mate, we could talk for days. Like, we can literally run the clock for like hours and hours, but we got to cut this one off. But I definitely would love to do this again, mate.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Look, we can do it over Teams. We can do whatever.
Yeah.
But
my pleasure, man.
Honestly, man, like you're an inspiring guy. I've kind of come here and I've known of you on LinkedIn and stuff, but meeting you in person and having some real depth conversations with you, I just got to say thank you for all the knowledge that you've even passed me.
Same to you.
You know, and we're definitely now going to definitely link up now. And, you know, I want to be able to talk. I want to get more out of you. Do you know what I mean? And so we can apply it to what we're doing as well. But any last thoughts, Joe, just for the podcast?
No, just keep your head up. It gets easier.
Keep your head up and it gets easier. I love that.
The more you start to understand it, the easier it gets.
Love that.
Right. Maintenance is very simple. Don't make it complex.
Don't overcomplicate it. Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate your time, buddy.
Appreciate you.